Hello, my name is Raymond Meza, and I'm doing this to give a testimony. And I've given a lot of testimonies. I've spoken at a lot of events and a lot of revivals, and on social media. And this is an event that changed my life forever. It's a spiritual event, and I want to share it with you. And in order for you to understand who I am, um, I need to take you from point A to point B, and I have to explain to you exactly who I am, where I was raised, my beliefs, what I went through, my choice in gangs, why I went that direction, eventually leading to prison, and all the way to the spiritual realm. And in order to do that, I have to take you there with me, and that's what I'm here to do. So my name is Raymond Meza. I'm originally from Northern California, from the city of Los Banos up in Merced County. It's probably like 45 minutes outside of Fresno. And my 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 mother, Dorita Holmes, she's a full-blooded Native woman. She's Mojave Paiute. My father comes from the state of Michoacan in Mexico, and my family migrated up to Ejido Hermosillo in right next to San Luis, Mexico. It's a little town along the border. Again, it's Ejido Hermosillo. It's in between Mexicali and San Luis. It's right. The neighboring towns is Masquita and Chiapas and Marijuana, and that's where my family had settled down. But my family originates from Michoacan, and so my dad's full-blooded Mexican, and my mom's full-blooded Native, and my grandfather, he is from Parker, and Parker is in Arizona, along the border, the California-Arizona border, and he would migrate. He would take my grandmother, who was Urington Paiute from Nevada, and they would go migrate. They would follow the seasonal worker in California. So they would migrate all the way up to the city of Lodi, California, and Lodi is full of grape fields. And there's a winery out there ran by a man named Mr. Andrews, and he had a winery business, and we were allowed to stay in one of his barns. And so my grandfather and my aunts and uncles would every year they would go out there. It was fun. I went out there as a kid, and they're the best memories of my life. We stayed in a barn, and it was outside of a town called Victor's, in between Victor's and Galt and Lodi, and it's just a barn in the middle of a field, and it was all grape fields, and it was fun. It was an experience. I mean, it was a barn. It was an actual barn where they would park tractors, and they would pull the tractors out, and we would get walnut boxes, and flip them over and use those as beds, and put a mattress over it. We'd have hot pots and all that. On payday, we would go to Victor's and get us some bologna, some soda, all that stuff. We would go into Lodi, and we would go to the swap meets. We'd go swimming. We'd go to the movies. It was fun. And my mother is the oldest daughter of 9 kids. I have 7 aunties and 2 uncles on my mother's side, and my mom is the oldest. And my mom decided to branch off from the family. So when my family went back to Arizona, my mom stayed in Los Banos, where she got married at a young age. She declared her independence, and she decided to stay in Los Banos, where eventually I came along, and my little sister. My 2 older sisters are from Kings Canyon. Me and my 2 older sisters, Cynthia and Cheryl, and my little sister is Lisa. Both me and Lisa are born, and we're originally from the city of Los Banos, and my 2 older sisters are from Kings Canyon, and so my mom raised us in Los Banos, and my first memories I could think as the apartments on D Street. and then we moved to the Capri Apartments, and the Capri Apartments are located on the west side of Los Banos. And anybody knows the history of Los Banos, the west side of Los Banos is basically where all the housing projects are, low income, the poor side. So we lived upstairs, the Capri Apartments. The Capri Apartments, the best way I could describe them are four two-story apartments facing off with each other, and that's one set. And then there's another set on the other side, and down the middle where the parking lot was back then, it was just all dirt and gravel. We had like grass to play in and dirt. I mean, it was a dirty place. It was the ghetto. I mean, straight out, it was the ghetto. And so we lived there for a short time, and then we moved to Illinois Street, and we lived upstairs in the upstairs apartments for a short while. And then shortly after that, we moved to a street over to Delaware, where that's where we stayed. We stayed in Delaware. To me, is always going to be home. I love that place, and words can't describe. I mean, growing up there was something else. It's so back then in the early '80s in the city of Los Banos. There was three elementary schools. There was LBE, Miano, and LB and Henry Miller. And Henry Miller is where I guess it was considered where all the ghetto kids went, and that was all of us. And the west side of Los Banos is square miles of housing projects. I mean, housing project after housing project after housing project after housing project. But it was home, and it all surrounds the hospital. The hospital is, I mean, it's words can't describe it. It's just a whole bunch of housing projects, and that's where my mom raised us. And the type of community I lived in back then was a whole bunch of field workers would come move in, and then they would leave shortly. So our neighbors and were just constant rotating door, coming and going, and it wasn't like a family that would move in. It would be like a group of border brothers or paisas or Mexican nationals. They would move in, and there'll probably be like 9 or 10 of them, and they would drink all the time. And back then, it's not like today. Back then, it was normal to see a good old fashioned wife beating. We'd be outside playing. Me and my friends would be outside playing, and the husband will be drunk, and he would be socking the wife up. She'd be screaming. We could hear the dishes breaking. We could hear windows busting. And then they'll come out, and then we'll be playing, and we'll be watching, and we'll keep our distance because our mom will be telling us, move out of the way, move out of the way. Or they'll be everybody will be standing at the windows just to make, referee. And the cops wouldn't do nothing. Cops would pull up. The wife be all bloody, busted up. The guy will be in his shirt and be all ripped. And basically, they would tell the guy he had to go sleep it off somewhere, go across town. The wife would always refuse to press charges. I don't blame them. I mean, we were all in bad situations, and can't have dad going to jail. He's got to go to work. You just got drunk. You know what I mean? That's just the way it was. And we've seen stabbings. I mean, it was crazy. Us as kids, we would fight each other, but we'd still be friends. And there was a lot of us. There was a lot, man. Just think about the number of us ghetto kids out there. So growing up, it was both split half and half. I think in my mind, I want to say that I had the best childhood because I made the best of it, because we had some messed up situations, and but in reality, it was bad. I mean, my mom, single parent. My dad, he show up every now and then, couple years, pop up for a few seconds, and he'd be gone. And So it was just my mom. My mom raised us, and it was hard for her. It was hard for her, but she did it, and I got nothing but love for my mom. My mom stood tall, she stood tough, and just gotta say, love you, mom. But the fact that we were half Indian, I remember every year around Thanksgiving. I mean, it's the same thing over and over. I mean, we'd get made fun of. They'd be doing the whole feathers behind the ears or behind the head, woo, 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 and they start asking me. It's always when the subject of the pilgrims and the Indians came along that everybody had all their funny questions to ask. Hey, do you live in teepees? Do you guys really eat buffalo? And it's, come on, man, I grew up next to you. You tell me. I mean, the apartment complex I lived in, really all of them, the walls are so thin. We used to hear each other getting whipped by our parents. I mean, we used to make fun of each other the next day at school. I heard you. But we played off. We'd overdo it, because if you don't scream loud enough, and if it's not a blood curdling scream, then, you got to satisfy the parents. They want to, they want to teach you a lesson. And if you're not making noise, and, basically just scream your head off. Just give them what they want. And that's what we do. So we'd get to school and we'd be making fun of each other. But, we can hear everything. You can, I swear to God, you can hear your neighbor using the restroom. You know what I mean? The walls are just paper thin, roach infested. In the wintertime, oh my God, it was cold. The toilets were always plugged up. I mean, we were constantly looking for places to go restroom. Sometimes we'd have buckets out back. But that was home. I mean, everybody's going through it. So, when one kid in the area had lice, shoot, you better believe we all got it. I don't know how. There are some kids we didn't even play with, but the lice would reach us. But it was something else. It was something else growing up. Like I said, my best friend was my sister Cheryl. She was a tomboy, and we liked the same things. We like football. We like all that. But I remember, I can name off all the original families of the West Side, Los Banos. I mean, because I grew up with them. We all went to each other's birthday parties. Those of us who were, blessed to have, a birthday party, we went, and it was nothing big, spectacular like the birthday parties of today. I mean, it was just like a little cake. We'd all get cake and ice cream. There wasn't no confetti, there wasn't no streamers, there wasn't no balloons. It was just, hey, this is a birthday meal. And then we get to watch our friend play with his new toys. And in our community, our group of friends, how we were with each other was like, if somebody got a new He-Man or new Transformer or a new Ninja Turtle, we'd all hear about it, and we'd all go over there and watch him play with it. We all take turns holding it, and we'd spend hours like that. And it was worth it because we got to lay our eyes on the new Skeletor or Omega Supreme. I remember when Atari came out, we all ran a few blocks back. We actually took a trip back to Los Banos not too long ago, and actually drove by the apartments, and they're still there. And I showed my wife. I was like, I remember this family right here got an Atari, and we would spend hours sitting on their porch, just looking through the front door that they had open and watching them playing ping pong. Boom, boom, boom. And it was so exciting and so addicting. It's like we just watch and watch, man. This was so exciting. We were close, and we all went to Henry Miller, all of us, and it was split. Because then you'd have your rich kids there. And when I'm saying rich, I'm not talking about, they had billions of dollars. I'm just talking, when I say rich, I mean their families had a house. Their families had a house. They had a car. They're the kids who got to bring lunch in a lunch pail. They're the kids who actually got to go to, buy books during the book fair. Rich, you know what I mean? Meaning their parents had enough money, were well off. They got to go shopping at JCPenney's. They didn't have to go to the Family Bargain Center or Thrifties. They got Nikes. I mean, rich. You know, we were poor. In fact, we were so poor that I remember Officer Simpson every Christmas he would get his list of unfortunate kids from the teachers at Henry Miller, and he would go around and hand presents out. Officer Simpson was a vital part to us having a childhood back then. I mean, he made the holidays, and much love to Officer Simpson. I know he's still out there. Matter of fact, I heard stories that when I had seen when I went back to Los Banos back in the night, it was probably like 97, 98. Officer Simpson was rolling around in a red BMW with rims, and the story was that he had did a drug raid. That car belonged to a drug dealer, and they turned it into their car. I mean, this man had a love for the community. And I believe I used to go to school with one of his either his son or his nephew. I can't remember. I think his name was Philip Simpson. But anyways, growing up, it was fun. It was fun in some sense, except for I always felt like I was you know, I knew I was part of the group, but I wasn't part of the group. I didn't know Spanish, so I would learn a little bit, but I was always viewed as different. I was chubby. I was chubby, poor. I was poorer than the poor. I mean, I didn't care back then. I mean, we used to go play in the canals and the ditches and get crawdads. I was a dirty little kid. I mean, it's probably why, you know, why I felt like I was maybe left out. I don't know. I was just a kid, you know what I mean? I was doing what kids do. I remember there's 2 towers at the door factory on the railroad tracks on the west side of Los Banos, and I remember we'd climb up it, and I would talk my friends into doing it, or I would do it and try to get my friends to go with me. And when I climb up them, my friends would run and tell their parents, and their parents would come out to see me, climbing up there. And then their parents would be like, "I don't want you playing with that kid." I was always stealing. On the first of the month, the mailman we all had mailboxes, and the mailman would put, blocks of food stamps in the mailboxes, and me and my sisters, we'd steal them. So we'd steal them, and so we're thieves. You dirty. Getting into trouble. So a lot of the parents, I'm assuming, I don't know, they would say, stay away from them. I know later on they did say stay away from them, because I was a bad influence. I would get into things I was stealing. I would get caught stealing. I was on probation. I ended up going to Merced Juvenile Hall at like age 11. So I was in an advanced stage of just being incorrigible back then. And other kids would run home and go clean their, they had rules: go home, clean their room, and they'd come out and play, and but they get rewards for doing it. They'd have a dad or somebody in the family that worked, and they would get a reward for doing it. My mom, she'd beat us, make us do it. So, we're stubborn kids. We'd sit in the room and we'd take the whoopings. As long as we didn't have to clean the room, then she'd whip us and tell us to clean the room, and we'd do a little bit. But she's a single mom. She can't keep her eyes on 4 kids, and especially back then. And it was different times back then. It was a totally different ballgame than it is right now. We'd play a lot. I would. My older sister Cindy, she's very beautiful, and she would be picked on for being native. She'd get picked on because she was a head turner. She was beautiful, and And a lot of the girls didn't like her, say she put too much makeup on, or any way you look at it, they were just jealous because a lot of the neighborhood guys, they had their eyes on my sister, and since there was a lot of paisas there, I mean, she'd be getting whistled at. They'd be offering to buy her things. I mean, she would just, she might as well just have roses thrown at her when she walked out of the door in the morning. She would get she was very smart. She got awards and everything, but she was also boy crazy. And it wasn't like she was out there chasing boys. The boys were all chasing her. She didn't have to do none of that. And back then it was it was a different time. This is back when there was little mini trucks with snug tops and booming systems. My neighborhood, we all had good times. Religiously, we would all meet at the doctor's office to play football. Football was everything. Football was life. Football. We'd play football, and my sister would be in there, be quarterback. We'd go to the doctor's office. We'd go to the middle of the Capri compartments, and there'd be a lot of us. I'm talking about, there'd be like 20 of us, 20 kids. I mean, there were just so many. Back then, you could walk from this part of the projects to this part, or go to a different housing project and meet a totally separate group of kids, and they were all doing something, whether it was jumping bikes, jumping ramps, playing baseball, football, whether it's they're just doing anything. Trucks would pull up to the side of the road along the railroad tracks to get a couple hours of sleep, and in the back of their trucks they'd be hauling like watermelons, tomatoes, oranges, whatever. They'd go to sleep, and all of us wake up early, and we'd hit the truck, and they get robbed of whatever they were hauling. I mean, it was a fun childhood. It was fun, except for the parts which stuck with me was always feeling like, I always felt like I was different. And the types of friends that I had in that neighborhood, they always made sure to remind you that you were different. And it had to do with being Native. And my sister went through it. My mother went through it. My mom used to go bartend at the bars, and there'd be some white women in there, and they would make comments to her, telling her, get my drink, you dirty Indian. And it's because my mom was beautiful too. My mom was beautiful, and she turned heads. Also, a lot of the women in the projects, they'd be trying to get my little sister's dad. My mom won his heart, and they wanted what my mom had. All the paisas around there wanted my mom, or they wanted my sister. And our neighborhood was filled with neighborhood girls, and they all loved themselves. I mean, they all dressed good. They all had their hair fixed. They all had the makeup on, cholas. And my sister and my mom, they were right in there and on top with them. There was just beautiful women all around. Tough, rough neighborhood. Anybody that knows Illinois knows that Illinois is known throughout Merced County. It's dangerous. I didn't know it back then. I didn't know it was that dangerous because everything was normal to me. And I would later on I would find out how dangerous it was when I became the enemy, and I'll get to that in a minute. So going to Henry Miller, like I said, on Thanksgiving, the kids, my friends, everybody would make fun of me, and I was the kid that we'd be playing and having fun until a new kid comes up, and to impress the new kids, all my friends would automatically start picking on me just to impress the new kid, or if there was a girl around, I would be the one to be made fun of or picked on. Yeah, it sucked. It did, but I was a kid, and I was willing to go through it because these are my friends. Why, my sister Cheryl, like I said, she was a tomboy, and a lot of the neighborhood guys, they were scared of her. If they picked on me too much, my sister Cheryl would beat them up. and so they were scared of her. So she was always hovering around. Like I said, she was my best friend. We do everything together. We wake up early in the morning before my mom got up, and we walk into town and we start hitting all the stores, stealing candy bars, football hats, just anything you think of. We even robbed the school, took some paint scrapers and opened the doors and stole all the construction paper. Why we need construction paper, I don't know, but we stole that. We stole some glue, some pens. We would still, like I said, food stamps. I mean, my mom's at home at the table brainstorming how is she gonna feed us. You know, she's weighing out all the food we have in the house. You know, how is she gonna make it stretch? And here we are with like $200-300 in food stamps, running around buying candy, buying gums so we can get back a lot of change so we can play video games. It's crazy. Well, I had a fun childhood. It was very adventurous. It was. My older sister, she ended up catching the eye of one of the toughest guys that back in my childhood. He was one of my idols. His name was Sir Fox, and he came from Brawley. He was he was outsider, but he was tough, and I'll get to that point in a minute. My sister Cheryl, she was my best friend. We ran around and did what we did. My little sister Lisa, she was just a baby. My mom would make me pick her up and walk her back from elementary school or from kindergarten back home, and a couple times we ventured off and played somewhere, and I get home and I get whipped for getting her home late. But that's pretty much me and my sister Cheryl. We'd always have these ways of getting money. One of the most common ways that we would get money is back then they would have bottles of soda, glass bottles, and there were 6-packs, and you would get a dime for each bottle. You turn them in, they give you 60 cents. So we'd go around and people would have those stacked up in their backyard. We'd jump the fence and we'd steal bottles, and if we didn't steal the bottles, they would already have their cans crushed and bagged up, ready to take them in to Dutra's, which is a place that bought cans, and we would rob them of their cans and their bottles, and we were always making money. I mean, we always had money, and if it wasn't for the cans, we'd break into the paisa's cars, and we steal whatever change they had in their little change slot. And on every Friday, the paisas would get paid. All the field workers would get paid, and they would go to the local Circle K and they would buy beer. And what the cashier would do was get a plastic bag, put the beer inside, put the change inside the plastic bag with the cigarettes they bought, the lighter, the candy bar. They would tie it up, and then they would walk it back to the projects, into the parking garage, and they would drink. I guess they would be too busy talking, laughing, singing, having a great old time. They would forget that their change was in the bag, the cigarettes were in the bag, and they'd throw it away. They would throw it in the garbage can. So me and my sister, we would go into the garbage can and we'd rip open those bags, and we found money that way. I mean, shoot, there was just so many ways of making money back then. And again, my mom's over here brainstorming how she's gonna feed us, and here we are. We got money. I mean, sorry, Mom, but we did that. We were little thieves. You know, the donation money they would have for Jerry's kids, they would have like a little plastic thing, and they would ask for money for Jerry's kids. Well, I'd go down those aisles and act like I'm paying for something. I'd grab one on the way out. I mean, shoot, there was just so many ways. But I got caught a few times, and I ended up on probation. And sure enough, the cop would drive me straight up to my my apartment, and my mom would come out. And when they're telling my mom what I did, everybody and their mom could hear what I did. So I was a thief. I got caught stealing. I played in the canals. I mean, I'd be climbing things. And then when I got a hold of a slingshot, we were always making slingshots. I accidentally busted windows. I mean, I was a bad kid, and you know, lot of kids either weren't allowed to play with me, didn't want to play with me, or they were, you know what I mean. And to the few that I did play with, I mean, it was just a matter of time before they, like I said, if there's somebody they wanted to impress, they'd beat me up or do something. But these were my friends. We were kids, kids are cruel. And vice versa, I'd do the same thing too. There'd be a couple people I'd pick on. Or, it's not like I just, I was just going around getting picked on the whole time. I mean, I was just telling you that that was my role in the projects was, we were the Indian family, and then when my family would come down from Parker, they were big, huge Indians, and I remember the neighborhood kids would be scared of them, man. As a matter of fact, my grandfather got beat by the Los Banos Police Department in front of my at the time was a kid, my Uncle Kerry. But they were big. My grandpa was big, my uncles were big, my aunties were big, and they were intimidating, and that set me apart. At the time I knew that they were there, so I would threaten people with them, and as soon as they would go back to Parker, then I'd be stuck on ground one again. But that was my childhood. We hardly had any. I mean, we had Christmases, but there are some Christmases we didn't have. I remember one time everybody had threw their Christmas trees out already because Christmas passed, and that year we didn't have a Christmas. So me and my sister Cheryl, we grabbed the old Christmas tree that was still green. That's still green. We drug it home, and at first my mom was like, "Go put that back outside," and then we're like, "Come on, let's decorate it." And then my mom got in the festive spirit, and she's like, "All right, drag it in." So we decorated it, and then she said when she get her money on the first, then she'll put presents under the tree for us. So we had a Christmas, but not on Christmas. And we struggle. We all struggle together. Moms, I love you. I mean, I know if you had the means to give us more, you would have, but it just wasn't in the cards back then. And I remember my mom would go to bingo, and the few times she would hit like 2-3 games in a row, come home with like $750 and just be throwing money out to us. I'm rich, we're rich. I remember those moments, Mom. But that was our childhood, and we didn't have the best clothes. We got Pro Wings from Payless. We got acrylic socks from Family Bargain Center. We got whatever shirts they had on sale at Thrifties. I mean, and the worst part was the yard sales. Just the fear of going to a yard sale. My mom used to go to yard sales all the time. I love to get toys. I love to get dishes, this and that. But when she went and bought one of my classmates' clothes, and I had to wear them to school, and they see me with it, they didn't hesitate. They didn't miss a beat to go and tell everybody, "Yeah, he's wearing my clothes." And I mean, it was bad. It was bad. The shoes that I would have, they would rip. Toes be sticking out. Socks get dirty. Feet start smelling. I mean, it was rough. It was really rough. Every morning, I mean, this is not a bad thing either. Every morning we'd have mom's tortillas, heat it up, get it nice and crispy, put some butter on it, go to school. I mean, like I said, for all the bad, there was good. I mean, mom took care of us. Mom took care of us, and she did the best she could, and she got us out of there. She raised us, but that was my childhood. My older sister Cindy, beautiful. Everybody liked her. Girls hated her. My oldest sister Cheryl, tomboy, protected me. My partner in crime, we'd rob every place blind. We even robbed one of the neighbors, which led me to juvenile hall. Stole a book, which I thought it was one of my little ex friends' grandpa's house, and we robbed it. And You know, we stole a VCR. Told my mom that my cousins gave it to me. We stole guns. I shook one of the guns, and I thought it was BB's, but it was in fact a 22. We stole guns, and my sister Cheryl ended up shooting out some window, and I ended up going to jail for it. I ended up going to juvenile hall for it. You know, the police came over after the window was busted. The lady that whose window we busted called the cops and told them that they see me at the window. Well, it was really my sister Cheryl, but like I said, she was a tomboy looking. She had the hat and everything on. But cops came looking for a boy, which is me, the only boy. Took me to the police station and asked me all these questions about a house I got robbed, and I denied everything. And then next thing you know, they took me in another room, and there's all the guns lined up. There's the motorcycle helmets. There's the VCR. Everything we stole right there. And my sister Cheryl was scared. They came back and said, "You might as well tell us everything. Your brother already told us." So she went under the house. In our closet there was a basement door hidden under the carpet, and that's where we hid everything. My sister went over there and got it, gave it to him. I got charged with it. Ended up going to juvenile hall. Like I said, at age 11. Like I said, my sister was my partner in crime. We did everything together. And then my little sister, she had a dad. Her dad would come, and she was the little princess of the family. And you know, we used to fight every morning. Every Saturday morning, we'd fight over who got the controller to watch cartoons. And there's mom. I mean, we sat here and I think about it now. I watched her struggle. Seen her cry, the frustration when the cops would pull up, when neighbors would knock on the door saying we broke something. Frustrated, crying, why did you have to do it? And it's more than my mom was embarrassed. My mom didn't care what the neighbors said or anything like that. My mom always backed us up as her kids. What my mom was ashamed of was my grandfather and my aunties and uncles finding out, and what they would say to her, because in a relationship, abusive relationship, the whole world can call you bad names and it doesn't affect you, but when the person you love calls you a name and it destroys you, and that's what my mom was going through. She didn't want to hear it from my grandpa. My grandpa was already, when she chose to stay back in California, my grandpa had already made statements, that you're going to live in poverty, you're going to fail, you're not my daughter. And so for her, she stood her grounds for years and years and years, not asking for help. And when they would be on their way up to Lodi, to the grapes, they'd stop by, and that was always the funnest times. Every time they would show up, my aunties and uncles would each have a bag of candy for all of us. We were the oldest of the grandkids, so we would get spoiled like that, and it would break my mom's heart to have to tell him that, hey, he got caught stealing, but it happened. And then my older sister started going through her stuff, cutting her hair short, and then my older sister Cindy, boys getting pregnant. I mean, we were your classic, they're from California, they're from the projects story. Little boy on probation for stealing. My older sister getting into things she shouldn't be. My oldest sister pregnant. I mean, it was your average story of ghetto kids back then. But that was my childhood.